The world is constantly telling us to live our authentic self, but we can get confused about what that is and where to even find that.
We're all struggling to figure out, what's authentic? What is even real?
What is even real?
There are so many fakes that are out there, but now we're really in a position where we're really trying to fool each other.
But since everyone's doing it seems normal. So how do you know that's real because everyone else is doing it? That's one of the big things I think is huge in finding authentic purpose.
So we're looking at this idea of academics and how does that work within our purpose? And I think what you'll find in whatever it is that you're made for, whatever this thing is that we call our authentic purpose, one, we know service is going to be a part of it. We know we got to persevere. We got to do hard things. But here's the thing I think you'll find, just as we've discovered and started talking about David, you're like, hey, I know a little bit about this guy, but tell me, did he ever fail? Did he ever? Well, as he piqued your interest, all of a sudden you start to want to know more about this cat, right? Like you're like, what's the real deal with David? And the first thing you want to do is you want to know more. And so I think whatever it is for you in your life, when you start to really look at your authentic purpose, you're going to find, I care about it. I become passionate about it. And I want to now learn more. In school, you might have been assigned books to read. In college, you've got textbooks and things, and there's things that you've got to read. Now, they're a little bit different in college because it's the first time you really get an opportunity to start to apply this desire to know something in very specific places, because there's a lot of colleges you could have went to, but you came to a Bible college. And so there was already something going on I want to know more about God. I want to be around his people. There's something going on with all of this.
Yeah.
And really your whole experience here at Central, a little bit of it is to explore that passion.
Yeah.
And how you're reading and discovering more things.
And that's the key reason of when we talk about that passion, that's the key reason of why I came here, because through my own knowledge, I was sitting in my dorm room. I've just came to Christ and my guys are coming knocking on my door asking me, let's go out. I couldn't explain to them why I didn't want to go out, because one, I don't think I had the passion yet to really understand. I was reading my Bible, I didn't know what I was reading yet, so I had to find more interest why I wanted to keep reading it. And that was one of the reasons why I came here, is because I needed to, because sometimes that passion might not be there right off the rip. That's the real part. I had to come and develop that passion because I already loved God, but I needed to know why I loved God. And I needed to know that through obviously knowing more about him, and through that passion that's still getting there. It might not be there off the rip, and it wasn't there for me, but I know that, like what you said, that's going to come when you seek that, when we seek whatever it is you love. And in this instance, it should be obviously reading the word to understand why you're passionate.
Yeah, it's the seeking of, right? That is the thing. And so whether it's whatever it is that becomes your authentic purpose, you're going to find that you become passionate about it. And that passion will lead you to knowledge. It'll lead you in search of knowledge. And so when we look at David in his young life, even as we've kind of looked at him as a young prospect up to this point, we can already see certain things about David, that he was poetic. He loved music, and so he knew how to play music. He knew how to write music. But you really see it. And it's not just in his countenance, because maybe we could assume some things about it, the way that he was so content in his life. But you really see it when Goliath started talking bad about God.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things.
That is when David was incredibly offended.
Yeah.
Because he loved God and he knew exactly who God was. Well, how did he know that? Well, that would have been through digging in and applying his mind to knowledge of finding out who is this God and loving him and serving him.
Well, that's one of my favorite parts, is when he goes, you come at me with a sword. I don't know. I don't remember what it is. I want to look it up, but he's so upset. He's so mad that anybody would ever even talk against God in that way. And he's like, you're going down. You're going down. And
well, it becomes a powerful moment, not
Yes.
only for David, but for everybody there.
Yeah.
It was a whole battlefield,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to understand, there was all these other men of God that were hearing the same things being said about their God. And they stood behind and stood on their lines.
You're too afraid.
And Goliath was daring, every day, daring. Just give me one. Like, if you want to save some bloodshed out here, just give me one person to fight. Winner take all, whoever's willing to fight.
And that's the crazy part too, when you talk about passion, because quote me if I'm wrong, he didn't know how to use that slingshot before
He did.
Okay, but
he used it as
he would have
his
used it
weapon
as a shepherd.
Okay, as a shepherd.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, well, what I was going to say was, I mean, through that, I mean, him probably having to now even keep beating on that craft of using that slingshot, just from him having that experience of, oh, he's going to talk bad about God, that led back to his passion of, now I need to get honed in to use this slingshot to take him out.
And then you look at the reps. We talked about getting reps with experiences before. He'd already had reps with that slingshot, because anytime a wolf or a bear or a lion was going to take out one of the sheep,
fling it out.
That sling is in motion.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, wait a minute, this guy's going to take out one of God's sheep? I've seen this before. And all of a sudden, he's like, I just need 5 stones.
I just need 5. He went and found the 5 stones, and then he came back to him like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
And it's the confidence that passion
Yeah.
gives you. It's the confidence that knowledge gives you. When a doctor walks in to the operating room to do his craft, to practice medicine, right? He's not in there going, okay, deep breath, here we go. He knows his craft because he studied it. He spent years and years dedicated.
I was actually just thinking, so I have a friend, she's a doctor, and we're in a dance class together, and she's so like not confident when we're dancing. And I'm like, man, I don't know how she'd be as a doctor. But then I started talking to her about being a doctor, and immediately her countenance changed, and it was like this confidence. And I'm like, oh, okay, no, that's something with your passion. It's something she's passionate about. She knows it. She has been there. She is confident, versus when you don't know as much, and you're not as confident.
Well, and that's the power of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the power of knowledge.
Yeah.
And we can take it to your craft a little bit with basketball. If you know how to set up your defense, or if everybody knows how to run this play, we don't have to have a lot of anxiety in that moment about the play we're going to run, because we've practiced it. Yeah. We've done it.
What would you say today, like as the world, like for a kid my age, how would you tell them to go after that passion? How would you know, like, for example, with the learning part, how would you set it up and give an example of why is it, or how would you seek this passion? Like, what are the steps you go out to achieve that, of why you have this passion in the first place?
And how to not follow a passion that's not
because the heart speaks different languages sometimes.
Right. And that's the important thing, because there's a lot of different ways people would talk about their passion, or the things that they want to know or to grow into, right? So if I'm passionate about my purpose, I want to know more about it. Some of us and some people never get beyond the passions of their own flesh.
Yeah.
Some only want to know the cravings of their own flesh, and they're passionate about gratifying that or pursuing that. And so some people get confused and they get hung up, and they don't push into their purpose, but they push into their flesh, and that's what sets them back. And you've probably seen that with even teammates before, that will, instead of spending time getting good sleep, getting good exercise, well, they might be out with their friends drinking and going, hey, I'll just show up, I got this. Yeah. And you realize once they're there, they're not ready.
No, and that's the key part, is if you're going to buy into that passion, now you have to commit to it, and if you're going to be committed to your passion, you have to take your passion with you wherever it is. After you leave the gym, I have this quote of, once you leave the gym, you take the gym with you. I'm not leaving the gym and I'm going to go out and eat all this food,
Yeah, speak to that. So how do you take the gym, if your craft is in the gym, is where you play the game, how do you take the gym with you?
Well, it's easier said than done, and half the time it's really a motor of discipline. That's where, because motivation that dies. Motivation dies. I'm not motivated to get up every single day and read my Bible. No, I try to be disciplined in doing it. And for the gym or for basketball or whatever it is in the context of the world, the biggest part of doing it is getting reps and reps and reps of doing it, and coming adjusted to saying, okay, now this is what I do. So now when it's 4 a.m, it's not, oh, I got to get up. No, one, I get to get up, but two, this is what I do now. This is who I am. And now it's positioned you into, oh, so now you see this whole new self of this is what now you become, and this positioned you to what you're supposed to be.
So how would that look like in our Christian life? What would that look like?
Well, that's what I was going to say with the scripture. I mean, it's so odd how the scripture is completely opposite of what the world says. You know, in Matthew 6, you have to seek the kingdom first and let everything else come. If you do that, and now that's cliche, and today it might sound as cliche because that's, you know, the world standards, but to do that is one of the hardest things in the world because it takes discipline. And I think with seeking the kingdom first in everything you do, one, your passion is going to be conformed to seeking the kingdom just by that action of one, seeking the kingdom, whether it be through service, experience, it doesn't matter. Just by that action of seeking the kingdom, I think is going to come that passion. At least that's how it was for me, because I didn't have a passion to follow God until I first opened up my Bible and realized, okay, this resonates with me. I need to realize why I have this passion.
So, man, that brings me back to something, Maci, that you said earlier, all the way back in our first conversation together about this idea of if I'm with the real thing, I don't have to worry about what's counterfeit. If I'm dealing with real money, I'll recognize the fake stuff. And when we're thinking about our purpose, if I am spending my time with God, my passions are going to come from that.
They're going to line up with him and his word and his real money, right? Like
Yeah, it's no longer me going, well, the Bible might be a part of a thing, and basketball could be something, and this other thing could be something. But really, if I really want to make sure my passions come and grow out of the right knowledge, right, the right kinds of things that I need for my life, in order for me to understand my purpose, then I need to spend more time with Christ. I need to spend more time in the Word.
Yeah, and that another word was, if you're going to have that passion, it has to reflect on Christ, like you said, like to have the zeal for Christ, you know, to be able to, my passion for basketball is great, but like I said, can I transition? Now, let's say I have this worldly passion for basketball. How are the steps, and what are the steps for me to develop that zeal for Christ? What does it necessarily take for me to develop that zeal for Christ?
Well, I think it's part of putting the pillars together, because you could have a young person that ball is life, and that's all they've ever known. And they love to do a hard thing. They will discipline their body, but they've never served in it. They've never taken it and used it in a way of service. The game has always served them. You know, do they ever serve the game? I don't know, but the game serves me, and I want it to serve me more.
Yeah.
Right. And so how do I take this thing that I love, and especially if I become passionate about it, how could it ever be a part of my authentic purpose? How would I know if God is using it? Well, when we start to look back at these markers, these authenticating markers, is service ever part of the game for you? Do you give back in the game? If you don't, then maybe those passions you have in that are ultimately going to be a part of a counterfeit purpose, because you're still trying to make the game be something for you. Ultimately, when we're looking at our authentic purpose, and we think about this pillar of academics is this knowledge that we're going to acquire for whatever authentic purpose is. But you're not going to have an authentic passion about the things that we're pursuing without that knowledge. So knowledge leads to passion. Or I should say it this way. The way we discover it is we create a passion for something that leads us to knowledge. We cannot find our authentic purpose without having that passion and the knowledge that's going to take us forward.